You are listening to the OurView Podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. Every week, we bring you episodes that are centered around topics related to disabilities. As the host, it is my hope that you are not just inspired by these stories that are shared, but that you put some action behind your inspiration to do something that improves the lives of those who live with disabilities. I thank you, our loyal listeners, for your support and remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at OurView for Life and to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts to tell us what you enjoy most about the podcast. Let's get into this conversation. I would like to welcome everyone back to another episode of the OurView Podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. I'm your host, Arthur Aston, and I'm happy to welcome my guest today, Jim Gaven, to the podcast. So, Jim, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to meet you.
Yes, you too. And to start off our conversation, I start off with a form of this question on every episode. Can you tell us who you are? Who is Jim? And just tell us some things about yourself, about your life, and something you like to do for fun in your free time, if you have any free time.
Nice. So, yes, wow, where do I start? Who is Jim? Well, I am a lover of music for sure. I am a father and a husband, and I run my own company, so I'm a business owner. I'm a brother, a uncle. Like all the I take pride in a lot of these things, right? That's why I bring them up. As much as silly as I can list off all the things that I am, it's I take pride in every role that I play in my life, and I think one of the biggest ones recently has been a coach. And I've been coaching my son's soccer team for the last at least 3, if not 4 years now, in some capacity, whether I'm an assistant or a head coach. And I find a lot of joy and fulfillment in like teaching the next generation the game of soccer. That's what my son is really into, and I grew up playing soccer, so that's something that I used to do a lot in my free time, but maybe not so much anymore. But what I do like to do in my free time, in addition to, who was Jim, the musician, the maybe entrepreneur, the friend, all the little other categories you could kind of put me in, is I love to snowboard and I love to work out. So I'm a long distance runner, and I think because I played soccer for so many years, it just kind of stuck with me. My endurance kind of stayed with me into adulthood. And I really enjoy getting out on long runs, long bike rides. I've actually done some long swims, and that's really interesting because that's like a whole other animal in itself. And snowboarding, and I find a lot of it to be like meditative for me. I use it as like kind of a moving meditation, if you will. So that's kind of what I like to do in my free time, and who I am in a sort of nutshell way.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you say you take pride in all of those roles that you have in your life. That is so true. I was sharing with some people the other day. I did a presentation with the University of New Mexico Foundation. They had a lunch and learn about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we were talking about person first language and how to address people with disabilities. And I said whenever I'm asked to introduce myself or to tell people about myself, I always mention those things that you did. I'm a friend, I'm a brother, I'm a son, and then I say, oh yeah, and I have spina bifida. Yeah, I have to use a wheelchair. It's part of who I am, and it's a pride thing. Like you said, I even, I've grown into being okay with having a disability. I've had it my whole life. Things have been rough, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it is a part of me, and it is something that I've lived with all my life. I'll live with it for the rest of my life, and it's nothing for me to be ashamed of. So it is part of how I introduce myself, but it's always all those other parts of me as well that I introduce first. So I really thought I thought about myself when you were introducing and saying all the things that who you are to other people, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we only get to live once, and so we might as well embrace all the things about ourselves that we are,
Yes.
and try to be the best at it,
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
Yes, whatever that may be for that individual. That is so true. Yeah, it's wow. I shared with you and for people that have listened to this podcast before, I am a lover of music. I love music. So when I was in touch with you about who you are and what you do and how you would be a good guest on the podcast, I was very excited to see that you have created your own company called Key of Awesome Music.
Yes.
So, can you share with us a little bit about your company and also why do you feel music is important and why do you think something like music is, like a universal language that brings everybody together?
Oh, I love that. I love that last question probably the most, because it's so true. Well, let's go back into a little bit of the background of the company. So Chaos and Music officially started back in 2011, but it was a side thing that I would use to promote and publish songs that I have written. So I'm a songwriter too, in addition to doing other things with me, a lot of other things with music. So that it kind of started as a side venture, but it wasn't like what I was doing. I was working at other jobs and other companies. And it got to a point where I worked at two different nonprofit agencies who support individuals who have developmental and or physical disabilities. And I was at each one for about 4 years. And then I got to the point where I was like, maybe I could do this on my own. I kind of like the idea of having more of a freelance schedule, not being always tied to I got to get there at 9 a.m. And I have to report certain things to other people and show up to, in my opinion, what they were nonsensical meetings. Cause a lot of meetings I sat in, I would sit there and I'm like, I'm not getting anything out of this. And I don't think I learned anything. And that was just what would happen at some of these meetings. And so I felt like I was kind of not wasting my time, but it was just time I could have been doing something else to be more productive and to maybe making more of an impact. So started brainstorming and I said, you know what, maybe I can do this on my own. And I had a 6-week window when I was still with another agency that I was working at, running a music program. So all the while I'm running music programs, different day programs for adults with developmental disabilities and group homes, and then going into even nursing homes and doing just fun, upbeat oldies classics for the folks that live there, that mostly had Alzheimer's and dementia. And I just really fell in love with using music to help people. And it was helping me so much too. Um, I struggle with anxiety, fairly high anxiety. I'm not afraid to talk about it. And music has helped me deal with that and getting out the energy that's inside of me that I feel like I have an excess of sometimes. But music helps get that out because I'm singing, I'm performing, I'm physically doing something, right? And I'm moving my body and it's getting out the excess energy in a good way. And I also use music as a therapy for myself to write songs and kind of make sense of the world. So that's what kind of was going into starting Key of Awesome Music. And I've been doing it full time since 2018. So we're coming up on 5 years now. April 1st will be 5 years for us as a company. It's not just me anymore. I have 3 part-time contracted employees that help run sessions, and we basically do one-on-one lessons, group sessions at different day programs, agencies across the state and even into other states. And the pandemic was really interesting. We were able to do a lot more outside of the tri-state area, let's
Mhm.
say. And I was doing sessions for a company in Florida. It was wild, and a company in Illinois. I won in Arizona. It was crazy
Wow.
because just had friends that knew what I did that were kind of sparsed around the country,
Mhm.
and it was so neat to be able to impact people and meet new people. I really enjoy meeting new people. And so that's, kind of what we do. In addition to with those with developmental disabilities, we still go into nursing homes and perform for the folks there. I actually write songs for sick children. There's a company I kind of partner with called Songs of Love, which is really cool. And they have a cool program where they get a profile on a child that usually has a terminal illness. So it is sad in some respect, but they get a personalized song about them. And so I
Oh,
get a one sheet of like their hobbies, what they're into, what their hair color is, their family members' names, and you have to craft a song around that. And then it's like a personalized song for them, which is really cool. I just, it's basically like using music to help people and
mhm,
in many shapes and sizes. We do drug and alcohol counseling sessions too. It's it's along the lines of music therapy, but I can't call it that because I don't
mhm.
have a music therapy degree, but it's along those lines. And so that is, in a nutshell, uh, Key of Awesome Music, which is really
Wow.
cool. And I feel like, to answer your question about music being a universal language, think about any song that you hear that maybe doesn't have words. You can kind of tell just by listening, even if you're not a musician, this sounds like a sad song. This sounds like a somber song. And usually that's in a minor key, because a song that's in a minor musical key tends to be somber, like melancholy, sad, brooding, let's say, yearning for something. Maybe you can kind of feel that in like how the music is played, what instruments are doing certain things at certain points. And then you could also the opposite, like you could tell when a song is upbeat and powerful and inspirational and the strings have you feeling the goosebumps. And no matter what language you speak, if you have an instrumental song, it can speak to you without having words. And that's what's super cool to me, is to listen to ambient sort of instrumental music that can easily do that. And even if there's a song you don't know that's in like Spanish, you could tell like, oh, this is a fun song just by
Right.
how the music is played, how the tempo is it upbeat, and be like, oh, this sounds like a fun song. I have no idea what they're saying, but it sounds like a fun song. And so that's how, for me, music is so universal in those two facets right there. You can use it, and using it as a tool to help people and to learn is another thing that I think has been so valuable in my time of working with the type of people in the population that I work with. I also forgot to mention we do library programs for children too,
Great.
which is fun. Just doing silly songs and getting the kids up and moving, and that's where music as a learning device has been really cool because they don't realize they're learning.
Right.
When
Wow.
you do music, it's just fun. But we're singing the ABCs, so they're learning the alphabet,
Hmm.
or learning how to count to 10 for young children when we sing This Old Man, or the ants go marching. It all counts up to 10. But they don't realize that they're counting to 10 because it's fun and we're singing and we're dancing. And so that's been the cool thing of what I've tried to incorporate into all the sessions that I do in some way, shape, or form. Something that the kids or adults or anyone I spend time with is learning something new, but they don't realize that they're learning.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I love so much of what you said, and I can I had an experience just last night actually. I was listening to the Bad Bunny new Bad Bunny album because he was very successful at the Grammys this year. And the songs are in Spanish. I took Spanish in high school, but that was over 20 years ago. I don't know what he's saying, but as you said, you could just listen to it and feel the energy of it, and you can tell what type of song, uh, is being played, and just listening to the instruments and just his energy and the way that he's saying certain words and certain phrases, you can tell, uh, what the song is supposed to be about, and it's great. I was listening to it and again had no idea of what he was saying mostly, but it was still a great experience. And um, back to what you said about, because you don't have a music therapy degree, but I know for myself, music is therapy. Like for me and for a lot of people I know that you go to music for a lot of, for a lot of emotions, whether they're happy or sad or angry. You can, identify with certain songs that just really make you go to that moment of what it is you want to feel in that moment. So I think that is really, really great, the work that you're doing, and all the different programs that you have, and the way you were able to expand, like you said, during the pandemic, and being able to host things online and reach people in other states. It's really, the pandemic was very traumatic for, a lot of us. And very sad and a lot of loss. And it also brought, I think it helped to bring people together in such a way and in such a wide way of reaching a different audience that you may not have been able to reach before. So that's really great.
Yeah, you're right. The pandemic was very challenging on many different levels, but it also opened up a way, a new and unique way that maybe a lot of us weren't used to, like say doing business or
Hmm.
connecting with one another. And so that was a crazy blessing amidst the chaos and turmoil that was 2020, let's say.
Right.
For sure. And then, obviously the people are still getting COVID. It's
Hmm.
not like it's weird, but
Right.
it was, yeah, it was a really scary time. Honestly, I thought that we were gonna potentially go out, like I was gonna potentially have to shut the business down for
Hmm.
a few months because I didn't know how I was going to be able to get reimbursed for certain things. The Division of Developmental Disabilities that we have a lot of individuals through one-on-one lessons, they weren't so keen on virtual sessions. So I was like running
Mm.
sessions with people on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever they wanted to use. And I had no idea if I was going to get reimbursed for them because the state hadn't said, yes, we can bill for a virtual session. So I was just like, I just want to be connected to people. I need to stay sane. And let's meet on Zoom like we normally would in person. And we'll just chit chat. We'll do a little music, some singing, whatever you want to do. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And then, so I'm like kind of connected to you, to the outside world.
Hmm.
Um, so that was really something in
Yeah.
2020 for sure.
Yeah. Can you talked about a little bit about this of what you do in your sessions with your clients. But can you share with us, you mentioned like counting and learning without them, without people realizing they're learning, which is always fun, to experience that even as adults. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was getting something out of this, but like, look at
Yeah.
that. I actually came away with learning something. That's really cool. So can you can you share with us, a little bit about your session, like what a typical session might look like and with
Sure.
your clients?
Sure. So I can break it down into all the different sort of areas we work in. So like I already mentioned, but I'll mention it again here as a kind of for continuity's sake. With the children's library programs, all fun sing-along songs that really get the kids moving. I pass out percussion instruments. I have a small bag of like maracas and egg shakers, and I try to do ones where we act out, where we get up moving, and even take requests from the kids. And sometimes try to throw a song in there or two for the parents because look, I'm sure they've heard Wheels on the Bus 1,000 times, and as have I. And it's nice, like I'll play a song that they might know that the kids might not, so that the parents might even be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like maybe I want to come back again. And so I'll play like a song like What I Like About You, which is like a fun, like kind of like punk rock song, or like
Hmm.
Wild Thing, because actually in the song Wild Thing, they say I love you in it, which is like a cool thing for kids to hear. And I didn't realize like, oh wow, we can actually teach about love in this song out of a song that's kind of like a rock and roll song. So, and it kind of trying to meet the kids and the parents at the same time.
Hmm.
That's been very unique to try to look at it in a different way like that. So that's for like library children's programs. For those with Alzheimer's and dementia, when I go into nursing homes or when anybody from our team goes on to a nursing home, we generally play just classic oldies for them. Frank Sinatra, anything patriotic. The Beatles usually go over very well. Anything that's happening with like particular season or holiday. So if it's near Christmas, it's all Christmas songs. If it's in October, we're playing a bunch of Halloween songs. So it's trying, and I do the same general thing. Part of some of our sessions with those who have developmental disabilities at the day programs and group homes that we go to as well. Um, I also bring a cool instrument called a hung drum, which is like it's like an inverted steel drum. Do you know what those are? A hung
Hmm.
drum? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Not many people do.
Hmm.
I bought one in the middle of 2020 as a way to stay sane for myself and to, be able to do something fun with music in a different way. And I bring that to a nursing home just to expose them to something new that they might not have seen before. I kind of mark it as like okay, here we're going to start with this. We're going to play it midway through to mark like we're halfway there, like an intermission sort of thing. And then we're going to, right before we close, I play it too. So that they kind of, I try to tap into this memory thing for them. Like if I come back again, which I generally do once a month at a lot of these nursing homes, that they will see, oh, that's the guy that brings that weird flying saucer looking. That's kind of what, and oh, we do this in the beginning, middle, and end. That's for those who have Alzheimer's and dementia. For drug and alcohol counseling sessions, I usually try to go in with a topic, usually a positive topic. So I'll pick songs that have to do about peace, and we talk about peace a little bit. And then we'll do like Imagine or like What a Wonderful World or Blowing in the Wind. These are all songs about peace and love sort of thing, and kind of open the conversation up to whoever's in the session and say, you know, if any songs are speaking to you, let me know. Well, if I don't know them, I'll learn them on the spot. And I'm able to do that with Google and just listening. But I use it as an example. And this is something that I have discovered over time, that if I at least try a song I've never heard before, I use myself as an example of doing something I've never done before and going out of my comfort zone. And maybe the people in the group, if they've never been sober in their adult life, are going out of their comfort zone right now to not take to using drugs or alcohol. And that you can do this too, just like I'm learning a song I'm never heard before and going way out of my comfort zone. It's a little bit of a stretch to put those two together, but I outwardly say this because I'm like, I know that this must be very hard to try to not just strictly go to, you know, using again. But, and it's okay if you do, we all make mistakes. We all, you know, fall off the wagon, let's say. And, but as long as we continue to show up and do good and like go, sometimes you have to go out of our comfort zone to grow. And that's, I use as an example with them when I spend time with those who have drug and alcohol issues. And then going into the developmentally and physically disabled group homes and day programs, I do a little bit of what I do with those in the nursing homes, where I try to pick songs that would be good for an appropriate season, a holiday that's coming up, do fun sing-alongs, silly warm-ups, vocal warm-ups to break the ice. And then I do a guided percussion activity with them, which could include the hang drum, my percussion instruments that I bring and pass out for the groups to use. And then at the end, I do a sign language section through song, because I think it's kind of a neat thing to do. I don't know that much sign language. I know just enough for the songs that we do. It's something I'm continually trying to learn new signs. I try to generally teach like I love you. Like it's just very simple. If I tell people, if you forget everything else we do with sign language, just remember those 3 words. Like it's the best 3 things you can say to anybody, you know, best 3 words you can say. And so that all of that gets included in like a session for drug and alcohol. I mean, the developmentally disabled and physically, those who are physically disabled, like day programs and group homes I go to. And that our team goes to as well. You know, we're still doing a hodgepodge of virtual and in person still. It's a pretty almost even split. There's half of my week I'm pretty much still at home doing this sort of thing. Wow. And yeah, it's wild to think still, right? We're 3 years out of this now, like 3 years. But yeah, so I know that was kind of a bit of a tangent, but I wanted to really break down like how I go about and how our team goes about these particular areas.
Yeah, and working with the different populations, you know, you have to approach things differently. So it was great, you know, it was great to hear the different approaches that you have for each of the audiences that you, you know, are interacting with. And to get to our next question, which is always fun for me to ask people. So what is your favorite song or your favorite artist, and why? You can give a few. It's fine.
I was gonna say, because Arthur, I'm not even sure if I can give you like what would be in a top 5 or even top 10. There's so many songs that I enjoy that I pull something really great from. But
Uh-huh.
I do want to. I thought about this question a lot. It seems like, oh, this is such a simple question, but it's
It's
not.
hard.
It's not, because there's so many songs that like I can go to this instrumental song that I get so much out of.
Hmm.
Um, uh, but that's only when I'm in that kind of mood, and then
Right.
it's, this other song when I'm in a different kind of mood. But there are 3 songs I can tell you right now that would probably be in my top 3, and that would be the song I Can Only Imagine by Mercy Me. That can be Where the Streets Have No Name by U2, and the Goo Goo Dolls' Iris.
Good songs.
Oh, and I can tell you why those 3 kind of all fit in the same box for me, let's say. They make me feel like I'm connected to something higher.
Hmm.
I generally get the goosebumps when I listen to those 3 songs. I'm a sucker for strings, and all 3 of those songs have string sections in them.
Hmm.
So I think between all of that, and I like the topics that they talk about, I Can Only Imagine is about meeting your maker one day.
Hmm.
Uh, Where the Streets Have No Name is a song that is about the starving people in Africa that I didn't know that that's really what the song was about. And it's a very powerful topic, and Iris is just, to me, the string section at the end. It's about love. It's about giving up everything to be with somebody. And that's like the most sacrificial kind of thing you can do as love goes. So
Hmm.
those 3 will usually would make it in my top 3. It took me a while to come up with that though, man.
It
Yeah.
is, like you said, it seems like an easy question, and then you're just like, oh no, but
But
it
it's
really
not.
isn't.
If I
It,
want to, if I want to feel like I'm a teenager again, I put on the song Motorcycle Drive by Third Eye Blind, because that's when I was first driving at that point. When I first got my license, that song has such a cool drum section in it. It starts off slow, it builds up, and I remember such good memories. Freedom, being able to have my first sense of freedom on my own by getting in the car
hmm.
and driving and playing the drums on my dashboard, and with the
Right.
windows down, blasting it. So like for that song is like when I'm in that kind of mood to feel like free.
Hmm.
I'm having a really good day. It's beautiful out. I'm putting the windows down. We're blasting it, and we're playing the drums in the dashboard. Like, but that has nothing to do with being inspired like those other 3 songs do.
Right.
Like in a different kind of way.
Well, it is music, like you said, music takes us back to a place in time where, that song is related, you relate that to when you first were driving. And, we all have those songs that take us back to, uh, those happy times and the, uh, I thought about this as well. And my dad is originally from Pittsburgh, and we live in New Jersey, and we would always drive out to Pittsburgh a couple times a year. And
Hard.
yeah,
I've
and
done
this
that.
is
Hard drive. Yeah.
yeah. And there's a time where there's no radio stations that you get because you're driving through the mountains. And so yeah, back in the 80s, we would he would always put in his cassette tapes into the and it was always something like Queen or the group In Excess or Pink Floyd. So it's like, whenever I hear those songs now, it takes me back to those long car rides to Pittsburgh. But it makes me think of my dad who passed away when I was 17. So it's like, it brings back those memories, but it's like really cool and also, can be emotional. But and sometimes purposefully, I'll put on one of those songs just to think about my dad and to just have great memories, and that's what music does, I think, for me and for so many other people as well.
I love that. I'm sorry to hear about your father passing. I I think that's such a great thing that you tap into those songs.
Hmm.
It's like a cathartic kind of thing. and to bring back memories, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
to your point about road trips, I have very distinct memories of a couple bands that my dad and mom used to listen to a lot. And when we went on long road trips specifically, and it was the Grateful Dead, it was CCR, and it was James Taylor.
Yeah.
So I have an affinity for those artists
Mm-hmm.
because I heard, for better or worse, like every song that like they pretty much put out, you
Right.
know. But as a kid, I was like, whatever. But as an adult, I'm like, man, I used to listen to James Taylor when I was like 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like that dude's like a legend. Like he's just, yeah,
Yeah, it
it's cool.
happens. It really does. It happens. I've talked about it on a lot of episodes. My favorite uh two of my favorite performers, I would say, are Patti LaBelle and Stevie Wonder. And going back to what what you just said, I was 6 and 7 years old listening to Patti LaBelle songs because my my uncle is Leon Huff from The Sound of Philadelphia,
No
and
way.
yeah,
Oh
so
my gosh.
going to his house, he had a room where he only played music that they wrote and produced. So I was a kid listening to, Teddy Pendergrass and Howard Melvin and the Blue Notes and Lou Rawls. And I remember hearing Patti LaBelle, and I was probably 7 years old, and I'm like, who is this?
Yeah.
Who is she? Why is she singing the song this way? It's amazing. I need to know everything about her. And so it's those types of memories, and really, really great memories that that music brings up for us. So that's why I was really excited, to have you on today to kind of get into this conversation of music and just how healing and therapeutic it has been for me, and I know for other people as well, just to to bring back those good times and those maybe not so happy times, but it's you can really relate songs back to a specific time in your life, specific memories.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can go down a rabbit hole for a long time about what you can do with it, right? You can write, you can use it as a therapy for writing. It could be a creative outlet for yourself if you play an instrument. Even if you don't, you can appreciate it, right? We have music all around us, Arthur. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like it's in movies, it's in commercials, it's like every department store you go in, right? You're on an airplane, there's music playing in there. It's like you find it everywhere. It's in nature.
Hmm.
Like I'm like maybe you can get a little woo woo with this, but like you're in nature and you hear the wind, like it's kind of like a percussion instrument. You can use drumsticks against a tree, and it's like that could
Hmm.
be an instrument. And so you can make music and appreciate music kind of in all its different shapes and sizes all over the place. It's all around us. It's like it's just about taking notice of it,
Right.
and and how we can use it to become a better version of ourselves or to inspire others or inspire ourselves. And so yeah, I can go on and on and on about because I it's helped me so much. And I just with dealing with life things, when I
Hmm.
write, dealing with a relationship that failed or something that doesn't make sense to me, and just fleshing it out, like writing it out in songs, or writing about love, or writing about this particular topic it's inspiring me, and coming at it from a different angle, or like writing children's songs is like a whole other thing that I do too. And that's interesting because it's like, well, how am I going to write a song for a kid that they might get into and make it silly, but make it fun and make it something they can learn? And so it's been this really neat thing, this hobby that has turned into like a passion and a career for me, which is,
Hmm.
I just wasn't on my radar when I was young. I mean, I started playing guitar when I was 16, and I thought it was like, I want to be a cool like rock and roller, and yeah, I want to get famous, man. And that's like kind of what it was for me, playing, loud punk rock and like heavy metal. And that's what I was first into when I was first playing, learning an instrument, the guitar. And it's nowhere near where I thought it would be. And it's been for the best thing. It's been for the
Wow.
best that I'm doing what I'm doing now. Cause we had talked about it a little bit earlier about how music for me as a solo, for a while, was solo. I was doing gigs like as a singer-songwriter and open mic nights, can be very ego oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Being We're in a band, you share the wealth, let's say, right? You
Right.
can share, oh, the compliment, oh, that's awesome, like, you guys sound great, oh, that's so cool, thank you, we really appreciate it. And you don't really take on that, oh, I'm awesome, because it's four of us, not just one of us. But like when it's just one of you, like you kind of have to, it's hard not to say, oh yeah, I must be the best because people are telling me I'm the best and there's nobody else with me. So
Mm-hmm.
doing what we've been doing with the company has been putting the ego to the side and truly trying to serve people through music and listen to what the individuals and the people we spend time with really want. I could sing a song that I might like a lot, but the person I'm doing vocal lessons with like has never heard it. So like defeats the whole purpose, right? So of doing it. So it's like you have to meet people where they are. And that's been something that's been really helpful too, with music for me.
Wow. I've loved this conversation so much.
Yeah.
Can you share where people can contact you, how they can follow you on social media, and how they can just get in touch with you for your company and the work that you're doing?
Sure. Well, if you see up here, that's our logo. So I purposely, I kind of have that there for like Facebook lives or virtual sessions that we do. So it's always there somewhere. You could just find us. I mean, if you were to type in Key of Awesome Music and find our logo, even in Google, we would be, if not the top one of the top ones you would find. And it's the same thing on YouTube, is just Key of Awesome Music, with our logo. Facebook is the same thing. Instagram is the same thing. And our website is keyofawesomemusic.com. And if you want to connect, you could shoot us a message on any of those things. Or you could email info@keyofawesomemusic.com. Simple enough.
Great. And thank you
Yeah.
so much for this great conversation. And, you really got me thinking when you were answering the question about your favorite songs. Now I have to really give that some thought of to, why they are my favorite songs. Yeah, that's really, really, really cool. I really appreciated that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to listen to a song and be like, hey, I like this, but like I don't know why I like it, right?
Hmm.
I've been there with a bunch of songs, but when you really start to think about it, the meaning behind a song and what it means to you will reveal itself, I think.
Right.
I think it'll be pretty quick for you when you
Hmm.
really like that. You'll be like, oh, that is why I really like that song, because it reminds me of this, or because it's
Yeah.
talks about this, and this was a pivotal point in my life. And that's why I can like connected and grabbed onto that song.
Hmm. Yeah, this is great. And Jim, thank you so much for your time today. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too, Arthur. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, man.
Yes, you're welcome. This concludes this episode of the OurView Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on all social media platforms at OurView for Life. That's OurView, the number 4, LIFE. If you have a topic or a person, or if you are a person who would like to be interviewed for an upcoming episode of the podcast, send us a DM on Instagram, send us a message on Facebook, or you can email me at ourviewforlife@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.